This year, I'm thankful for Honeylove because there is nothing worse than suffering from an uncomfortable bra or shapewear. Honeylove has revolutionized the bra and shapewear game. Say goodbye to uncomfortable underwire and bulky fabrics that trap heat. Honeylove's bras feature supportive bonding that eliminates the need for underwire without sacrificing lift. Plus, they're made with fabric that's so soft you won't want to take it off. And their shapewear uses targeted compression technology, so you no longer have to feel like you're suffocating while wearing effective shapewear. You'll immediately feel and see the difference. Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save up to 50% off site-wide at honeylove.com/ratchet this month only. Inventory is limited and the sale ends soon, so don't miss their best deals of the year. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Elevate your comfort, elevate your style. Thanks to Honeylove. Have you seen this challenge online? It's called the Breaking My Heart Challenge. And people are posting pictures of their parents from back in the day. And they're like, oh, my mom used to break hearts back in the day. So I wanted to make one of those. So I'm digging through this box of pictures and I'm like, is this really like the best way to organize the family photos in giant boxes in the basement? I found a solution from our friends at Legacybox. You're going to love Legacybox. For a limited time only, you can visit legacybox.com/ratchet and save 50%. That's legacybox.com/ratchet to shop 50% off. This sale won't last long. Legacybox.com/ratchet.
This episode is brought to you by SkinnyPop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. SkinnyPop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up SkinnyPop Original Popcorn today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. You guys and gals, and those who don't identify as either, I'm a little bit sad. My mom has been with me in Cape Town for the last month, and I just took her to the airport earlier today. It's 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday night here in Cape Town. So her flight left about an hour ago. So I'm a little sad. I've enjoyed having my mother here. My mom is like self-sufficient and she's fine. But when she's traveling with me, like I usually take care of everything because she's coming to visit me in a place that I'm living. So like I know how to get around and I have drivers and know the airports and things like that. So I've been taking care of her, at least when it comes to moving around the city and such. So I had our driver pick us up and I went to the airport with her to see her off. I walked her to security and I waited for her as she got to the front of the line. And I was, sitting there on my phone and I heard my name. Someone yelled like Demetri. And I just assumed it was my mom. And I looked up and it was like this smiling, waving Black girl, American accent. So I was like, hi, because we on the other side of earth. And if you recognize me, then you really must be somebody who's into see some world, ratchet and respectable, me as a person. Hey, Black girl, hey. She was like, oh, you're here with your mom. And I was like, yeah. And I kind of pointed or whatever. So my mom was literally standing like a couple people behind them. And my mom was like, is she still here? My mom thought I had just left her at the airport and she wasn't even through security. And I was like, am I an animal? Is that who you raised? This sounds so silly. It's just the most basic thing. So my mom had to go to a VAT office on the other side of security. And she was really, really concerned about finding this VAT office. She had traveled, I think her and my godmother had gone to Italy and they bought some stuff and they couldn't find the VAT office or they had problems with the VAT office. And they were so caught up that they almost missed their flight back to the States. So she was really, really concerned about the VAT. And I was like, well, there's nothing I can do to help you on that side because I can't go through security with you because obviously I'm not traveling. So I was like, ask the Black girls if they can help you through security. And she's like, what? And I was like, ask the Black girls. And so the girl who originally called my name was like, what do you need? And I was like, can you help my mom find the VAT office on the other side? And she's like, yeah. Like, we got her. You good. Like the way that Black women have shown up for me I know this is like the most basic thing. And I know, like, if somebody asked me, like, could you like take care of my mom? Like, sure, no problem. Like, it's your black mom. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure she's good. But just being on the other side of earth and just running into either listeners of the pod or people who follow my social media accounts or, I don't know, read my books, watch me on TV, like whatever. But to just do me a solid and like look after my mom. Cause I was really like, damn, like I wish I could go through with her and just, make her life easier and just make sure she gets on the plane without, looking for anything. Like she'll figure it out, of course. It's just much easier when you have somebody who's like, make a right here, make a left here, do this, do that. Like it's just, easy. Like you can do it on your own, but it's so much easier when you have somebody there who can like simplify things for you. So like these black girls who just, sort of appeared from nowhere and just decided to like stand in the gap, really appreciate it. And they DM'd me, or at least one of them did, to say that they took care of my mom and she was good. And my mom also DM'd me. She was like, oh yeah, they were actually on my flight back to DC. So shout out to Bridget, Shanora, and Sheree. Thank you, ladies. I really, really appreciate y'all for looking after mom. Oh, man, black women. Where would black women be without black women? Lord have mercy. Last week, I was really down bad when I recorded the episode. The election or the results of the election shouldn't have been shocking, but somehow were. And processing it now, like I'm thinking, like, you know what? Maybe we were just a little delusional to think that America was going to vote in mass for a black woman. They didn't even vote for the white woman. I mean, she got the popular vote, but she didn't get the electoral college, Hillary. I did want Kamala to win, obviously, and I wasn't sure she could, but I just figured, like, just looking at the landscape for what it was, I underestimated white folks, not even just white folk. I can't even just say like American folk and their racism and their sexism. I thought we were better than what we are. And I honestly feel like a little stupid for thinking that. Mm. All of my good entertainment sites, I mean, with good cause, are talking a lot about politics and the election and Trump. Rolling Stone is just basically become like CNN right now. They're rolling out like nonstop political coverage. I imagine it's getting great hits, and that's the reason they're doing it. Or they could just be trying to save the republic. It could be both. I really would like to disengage. Like what I've seen so far, pause. She's a friend in my head. I mean, I've met her in real life, but we're not like friends. Like we don't text or whatever. Francesca Ramsey. She's been doing this thing for a while. It's very amusing. I don't know what kind of instrument it is. It's like a little guitar. Is that a ukulele? Whatever. So she does this song called I Never Thought the Leopards Would Eat My Face. Basically, it means that people don't expect the obvious. Like they think they're the exception to the rule, especially like the Latinos, the women, gays for Trump, blacks for Trump, people who voted for Trump and then get burnt by their decision. There's so many people who voted for Trump against their own best interest. And now that Trump is rolling out these policies, he's not even in office yet, obviously, but he's uploading these videos every day about, the policies that are to come. I saw something today about white people getting reparations because they've been discriminated against. Basically, some brown folk that they feel are undeserving got the jobs that should have been allotted to them. So now Trump is saying that he's going to pay reparations to the white people who haven't gotten their just due because basically a non-white person took their job. And I was like, are you fucking serious right now? Is. But she's done a couple stories that are really interesting. Let me go on her page real quick. Some of the stuff she's actually posted about and other stuff when it happens, I think of her. I'm on her page right now. There's a black guy in a MAGA hat, and he voted for Trump. He was somewhere around MAGA people, and one of them told him, like, you'll never really be, part of the MAGA family because you're black. And he uploaded this video, I think, to TikTok, and he's like all distraught. I voted for Trump, and I, gung ho Trump, and I spread the good word. And like now they're treating me like I don't belong. And, Francesca picks up her ukulele. I think it's a ukulele. Is it a guitar? I don't think it's a guitar. It could be a guitar. Why do I keep wanting to call it a ukulele? Whatever. She picks up her instrument and she starts playing like I never thought the leopards would eat my face. Nikki Haley. Trump says that there will be no place for her in his administration. What's Nikki Haley's real name? Because she's Indian. Nimarata Rantawa? Is that how you pronounce her name? She's Indian. Like Kamala Harris type Indian. But she goes by Nikki Haley, and she thought that she would assimilate and blend and be part of the Trump administration. And he was like, nope, no, that's not gonna happen. Like specifically called her out by name. Like, nope, not gonna happen. None for you. No appointment for you. And she seems to be confused because she thought she was, in the mix. And no, you too mixed, too brown. Looks white, too brown. Not included. None for you. And then there's just been a bunch of stories online. Remember I said last episode, I'm sure you've seen this because it's all over the place. This guy, Nicholas, Your Body, My Choice. Is it Nick Fuentes? Is that his name? One of those Latino people that thinks he's white in America. I'm like, you could be white in your home country, but here, not so much. So Nick Fuentes had uploaded this rant that went viral very quickly saying, Your body, my choice, basically a rape threat to women and joking about the lack of autonomy that many women have over their body after Roe v. Wade was overturned, which Trump is now elected. People are expecting a nationwide abortion ban. Even though Trump said he wasn't going to do it, that means absolutely nothing. But he uploads this rant and people are pissed for obvious reasons. He gets doxxed and people put his address online and people go to his house and start harassing him. Then he goes to his mother's house. His mother's ex-coworker uploads a video to TikTok. It didn't stay up long, so I read, but somebody like did a screen record, and so it's still all over the internet. But she was saying that, like, I used to work with his mom. Nick Fuentes is a twin. He has a very lovely sister who's very popular and very wonderful and very accomplished. Everyone loves her. And because his sister is so amazing and he is so not, that's probably where, a lot of his issues with women come from. She said, I remember working with his mom and she was constantly having to leave the office to go address like issues that were going on with him in school. Like he was always getting into trouble. And she says, I remember one of the times that she had to leave school to go pick him up because he shitted his pants. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Other people who knew him started telling these random stories about him. And like individually, they started talking about these incidents. Apparently, you had to like run a mile. I'm going to guess this is some sort of like PE, gym exercise, whatever. But while running the mile, he shitted his pants. And then the mother's coworker confirms, like, yes, he shitted his pants. And his mother had to leave early to go pick her shitty son up from school. And I was like, oh, you were that guy then. And then now he gets doxxed for his home address, and then he goes to stay with his mother because he's not safe at home. So you know how like online, like men, say crazy shit. And the stereotype is no one with a job has time to sit online and just rant hateful, misogynistic messages all day. How are you gainfully employed with all this free time? How do you have an active social life with all this free time when you're living on the internet? The joke is you are an unemployed podcaster living in your mother's basement. He is, in fact, confirmed an unemployed podcaster, maybe not living in the basement, but absolutely living with his mother. There's a story about a woman went to his house. I want to say it was a woman in her 50s. She was outside his house, like protesting, like across the street on the sidewalk, like public space. And she said some woman dared her to like go up to the house and ring the doorbell, which is technically legal. He didn't have like no solicitor signs up or anything like that. So she went and rang the doorbell. He opens the door, sprays her with mace, grabs her phone, throws it down, I think, and then pushes her down the steps and she falls. She actually called the police because she was like, this is an assault charge. Like if I was, like a Jehovah's Witness or I was Girl Scouts selling cookies and I come ring your doorbell, you don't have the right to like mace me and then push me and then destroy my property or damage my property. So she called the police and she said the police got there and was like, well, what do you want us to do? And she was like, well, he assaulted me. And they were like, well, you rang his doorbell. And she was like, yes, I rang his doorbell. That's not illegal. But him pushing me and like taking my phone and slamming it actually is. I don't know what the resolution was with the police. I think Nick Fuentes is trash. The lady going on his porch, she wild for that. She wild for that. He should be arrested. He should be charged with something. Like, that's wild. Like you can't just pepper spray people. You can't take people's phone. You can't push them down. I also understand that he was like deeply petrified and afraid. And I was like, oh, so like a woman, maybe, who's threatened to be raped. Maybe you were afraid like that. Is this the case of I never thought the leopards would eat my face? I put out threat of rape and make women afraid, and then women turn around and make me afraid. That feels more fuck around, find out than leopards eat my face. But I think there's overlap with that. No? Actually, it's kind of the same thing. I'm working this out in my head in real time. Stay with me. This year, I'm thankful for Honeylove because there is nothing worse than suffering from an uncomfortable bra or shapewear. Honeylove has revolutionized the bra and shapewear game. Say goodbye to uncomfortable underwire and bulky fabrics that trap heat. Honeylove's bras feature supportive bonding that eliminates the need for underwire without sacrificing lift. Plus, they're made with fabric that's so soft you won't want to take it off. And their shapewear uses targeted compression technology, so you no longer have to feel like you're suffocating while wearing effective shapewear. You'll immediately feel and see the difference. My Honey Love go to is their best selling Superpower short. It has targeted compression technology that distinguishes between areas where you want more support and areas you need less compression. Their signature X targets and sculpts your midsection without squeezing your natural curves. Plus, what I love, it won't ever roll up or down thanks to flexible boning hidden in the side seams. Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save up to 50% off site wide at honeylove.com/ratchet this month only. Inventory is limited and the sale ends soon, so don't miss their best deals of the year. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Elevate your comfort, elevate your style. Thanks to Honeylove. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. This month is all about gratitude. And there's one person that we don't get to thank enough: ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, that isn't easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. You know, I am a huge advocate of therapy. I think everyone should have some, especially the people that think you don't need it. And especially right now, we're dealing with so much. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime for no additional charge. I love how easy BetterHelp makes it to access professional counseling. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/ratchet today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ratchet. There's also another story I was reading. I hope I saved it. Could tell you the story, but I want to tell you the man's name. It's like one of the most Spanish names that you would ever hear. Did I save this? Please tell me I saved it. I want to say like his name is Angel. So we would call him Angel Rodriguez. The guy who was reporting on it, he was a fellow Latino. He made his point to enunciate his name properly. Angel Rodriguez. So he is a Trump supporter. So the election obviously is last week. He has children. His neighbor also has children. His neighbor is white. His neighbor didn't want his white children playing with the Rodriguez children. And the guy was like, but I voted for Trump. We one and the same. The white dude was like, you're not like us. So he called the police. Angel Rodriguez, he doesn't speak English that well. So he's in the video talking to the police and he's going on and on and on in Spanish. And it's a white police officer. And he was like, no, I don't understand you. He let him go on for like 2 minutes in Spanish. And it was like, I don't understand the words you're saying. So this man is distraught. He was like, how could this happen? Like, I voted MAGA. Like, I'm American. I'm MAGA. And his neighbor was like, no, get your little Rodriguez children away from my like proper white children. Like, there's not going to be any mixing. And he's like, this is my neighbor. I've lived here. That's happening all over the place. There was something what I was watching. What was I watching? There was I was gonna say he was Mexican, but I'm not sure. I believe he actually was Mexican. I don't think I'm just like throwing out ethnicities, but I believe he was Mexican. And He said that he is here illegally, but he's family oriented and he pays taxes and he's a good person. So he doesn't feel like Trump is going to come for him. But he is okay if Trump comes for other illegals, people who are here in the country illegally. Call them illegals kind of is like a othering thing. You know how we talk about the difference between saying somebody was a slave and somebody saying somebody was an enslaved person? I feel like saying illegals robs people of their humanity. So people who are in the country illegally want to acknowledge the humanity there. But he was saying that, like I'm different than those illegal people. Like I'm good illegal. They bad illegal. So they could go home. And so he's confused about Trump talking about the 10 million illegals, because that's what Trump calls them. And he was like, wait, they counting me in that number. Like they just trying to get rid of everybody illegal, like even me. I'm family oriented. I can't sing like Francesca, but I was like, I never thought the leopards would eat my face. I laugh at the individual people that have been highlighted on the news who just, voted against their best interest and in less than a week are realizing that like, oh shit, like I just fucked myself. Shit. I laugh at it because like you're fucking idiots. But I can only laugh so hard because I also recognize that Trump has a list of people that he's going after, and he's starting like last week it was, the quote unquote illegals, the immigrants, right? I just know that they're first on the list, but it's just a matter of time before he starts enacting policies that get to us. So as much as I laugh at these people and as much as I'm like, you fucking idiot, you voted for Trump and damned us all, I'm also like, we all stuck under this regime now because of you. Yes, you voted against your best interest and you're going to be hit. But because of you, like I'm also going to be hit. I can laugh at your shit now, but like 2 weeks from now, he gonna start up with like the black shit. Like just find something evil and crazy. Like what I talked about at the beginning of this episode. Like reparations for white people. Like what? What? All the privileged white folks got in this country, and now they need reparations because they've been discriminated against. Their privilege is not working like it should. And I was like, what in the KKK? Which, by the way, mark my words, there will be a KKK march, either DC or New York, within the first year of the Trump administration. We're going to go back to that level of crazy again. I just want to put that out there because that's absolutely going to happen. I said that to my mom. And so she was like, yeah, I totally expect that for inauguration. Like, sure, there will definitely be people in KKK garb at inauguration, 110%. I was like, you see it? She's like, who doesn't see it? A lot of people don't. Last week it was the immigrants. This week we're only on Tuesday. It's reparations for white people. Oh, yesterday, because Trump does something every day to stay in the news cycle. Great marketer. I'll give him that. Absolutely corrupt and evil and a fascist and like neo Hitler, but also great at marketing. That's what he does best. Yesterday's attack was trans people. He's going to make a federal law that only acknowledges two genders, your cisgenders, whatever you were identified as at birth. We're no longer acknowledging the existence of trans people. And I was like, oh God. Trans people are like 1% of the US population. I feel like there's always a conversation, and not in a good way, about something going on with trans people in the news. Like someone's always concerned about a trans person in a bathroom or playing sports, being the downfall of this or that and all the havoc that they're causing. Or I don't know. I just feel like there's constant conversation about trans people. And I'm just like 1% of the population. So like of all your great concerns of things that need to be fixed in this country, the price of eggs that people are so concerned about, the price of gas that people are so concerned about, like that's not getting addressed. That's not here yet. It's kicking out the quote unquote illegals, and then it's the trans people, and then it's reparations for white people. But I was like, okay, but the cost of eggs that everyone was so concerned about, that they keep saying that this is why we voted for him, because it's so expensive. The country's so expensive, and inflation and the cost of eggs and the cost of gas. Like, where are those initiatives? Oh, that's way down on the priority list? Oh, okay. We are so fucked. So fucked. I literally went out over the weekend. I think I recorded last week's episode on Thursday because Mom and I were going out to wine country on Friday. And we did. We loved it so much. We were supposed to go out to, what is it, Cape of Good Hope? It's like it's billed as a southern tip, not the southern tip, a southern tip of the continent of Africa. And it's where two bodies of water meet. And it's like very scenic on the drive out. And mom was really, really excited about going out there until we went out to wine country, went out to Franschhoek, and she saw all the mountains and she saw like the wineries, and she was like sold, and she was like, I want to come back here. Like I want to look at mountains, and I want to drink wine, and I want to just, eat really good food. And like, this is just really, really beautiful. So that's what we did instead. Franschhoek is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. It's this valley and like panoramic mountain views, and it just looks like it looks like a painting that was sketched. Like it's just a really, really, really beautiful place. And we walked around and through vineyards. We saw animals. I mean, mostly like hens and roosters and whatnot, but animals nonetheless. And we literally like touched dirt and plants, and we're just like in nature. And it just gave me a sense of calm in the midst of all of this crazy. And I say that being thousands of miles away from America, like I'm literally a 15-hour flight to get back to East America. I'm not even in it. And I feel the impact and the crazy of it all the way over here. Ugh. I'm very afraid for what is to come. And I see so many Black women online. They were like, you know what? We did our part. We always do our part. We are always showing on the front lines. We are always organizing. We are always fundraising. We are always doing the emotional labor, the physical labor, the planning labor. Like, just, we're tired. We're tired. I saw this woman earlier today, and she said, I'm taking off my cape and I'm using it as a blanket. I'm going to lay down, which I don't blame any Black woman. I wouldn't blame Black women for laying down before the election, but definitely not after the election. Like, it's, the message has been sent loud and clear that we're not wanted in mainstream space. We are not appreciated. We are not desired there. So like, what is the point? We do for each other. And if we got some good Black men in our lives, we do for them with reciprocity, clearly, not just doing a bunch of labor for somebody who doesn't show any concern. But otherwise, just lay it on down, rest, play, frolic. Have you seen this challenge online? It's called the Breaking My Heart Challenge. And people are posting pictures of their parents from back in the day. And they're like, oh, my mom used to break hearts back in the day. So I wanted to make one of those. So I'm digging through this box of pictures, and I'm like, is this really like the best way to organize the family photos in giant boxes in the basement? I found a solution from our friends at Legacybox. You're going to love Legacybox. Every day, your home movies and photos are slowly fading away. They fade away in closets, or worse, break down because of the dampness of your garage or heat in your attic or wherever you're storing your photos. Well, right now, you can easily access those memories and protect them forever for 50% off with code RATCHET. Legacy Box is easy. Load Legacy Box with your old tapes, film, and pictures and send it back. You'll get it back on a thumb drive or cloud, ready to watch and easy to share. It's so simple. It's like magic. Our family photos, I'm talking about my baby pictures, all my parents' stuff, and my grandparents' stuff. They were all stored in boxes in the basement. The idea of something happening to all that history, oh my God. I'm so glad I found Legacy Box to keep my family's history safe. For a limited time only, you can visit legacybox.com/ratchet and save 50%. That's legacybox.com/ratchet to shop 50% off. This sale won't last long. Legacybox.com/ratchet. PSA for anyone who rents. If you haven't heard of Bilt, you're about to thank me. Earning points on rent is now a reality when you pay your rent through Bilt. You don't even have to check with your landlord to start earning points that you can use toward flights, hotel stays, fitness classes, and even your next rent payment. Let me break it down for you. There's no cost to join Bilt, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Bilt points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world that you can redeem your Bilt points toward. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Bilt members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? I love Bilt for making my travel life so much easier. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/ratchet. That's JOINBILT.com/ratchet. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbilt.com/ratchet to start earning points on your rent payments today. We do have some good Black news this week. Denzel, I've been obsessed with this new Gladiator movie. I went out to I can't remember their name of it, but it's like their version of Hollywood where all the big film sets are. I was out there at the top of the year, maybe like January, February. Atlas Studios, I think that's where it was. But my tour guide mentioned, he was like, yeah, Denzel was just here filming Gladiator 2. And I was like, I'm sorry, excuse me, what? Because at the time it wasn't public knowledge. We didn't know there was a Gladiator 2 and that also Denzel was in it until June. He announced it at ABFF, but it's here. It's coming. I think it gets to the state November 25th, but it comes to South Africa in 3 days. I cannot wait. But Denzel went to a screening. Actually, no, calling it a screening is inaccurate. Denzel went to the world premiere of Gladiator with the red carpet, the real fancy one. It was in Paris. And he showed up in, let's say it was a sweatshirt. It wasn't wrinkled. It looked clean, and some pants, and then like some daddy running shoes, like some Skechers type shoes. No jewelry, no chain, no bracelet, just nothing. He showed up like he was going to run his errands, like he was on a Target run. And then he was like, oh shit, I forgot I had to do this thing. And the thing being the global premiere of the movie that he's starring in, that people are hailing his role and saying that like it's Oscar worthy. He just ran on the red carpet like straight from Target. And I think if anybody else tried that, because I've seen people show up on red carpets and they're like, not their cutest clothes, not their like cocktail dress or a gown or something like that. And I'm like, you really thought that was a good idea? Like you couldn't afford no kind of stylist? Like you really thought that was a flex? If it wasn't Denzel, I'll probably have something to say. But because it is Denzel, I'm like, you've given us 50 years of like the best of the best, like the finest peak work. Like you are the gold standard. And I'm like, you are a flex. You showing up is the flex. Like it's not about the clothes, it's not about the jewelry. It's like just it's you. You are the flex. I wrote about it on Instagram and I was like, if my presence was a present, is a person, like that's Denzel. Like, yeah, that's it. I saw a lot of people talking about like, oh, he's look old, he's aging, he's 70. He looks like a well-preserved 70-year-old man. Like he's Denzel been fine my mama whole life and my whole life. He's in peak fine form. I think he still has a hairline, but he was clean shaven. His head was bald. I ain't had no complaints. I was like, Denzel is 70. Remember folks used to talk about Whitney Houston's voice, like after she, had recovered. Like I didn't know my own strength, that her voice wasn't, like peak Whitney Houston. It wasn't I Will Always Love You Whitney Houston. It was a different Whitney, but people were like, yeah, like Whitney Houston on a bad day, it's still like MF Whitney Houston. It's still like the best on the radio. Denzel on a bad day, it's still peak Denzel. It's Denzel. I hope Pauletta gave him some cake. You saw that viral clip. That's when I was at ABFF. I was sitting in the audience when he called Miss Pauletta. It was Father's Day. He put her on FaceTime and then turned the phone around so the whole room could see her. And she was mad at him, play mad. She said, you're not getting no gifts for Father's Day. He said, I'm not getting no gifts. She said, no. And he said, I still get some cake. I love telling this story because I wasn't sure if he was talking about, like some cake or he was talking about, like some cake. The press junket for Gladiator 2, Denzel was over in Australia. Or maybe he wasn't in Australia. Maybe he was just speaking to Australia today because it looked like a feed in. He was talking about his upcoming projects. He says that he's going to retire after this next round of projects that he's working on. And I was like, retire? I know I just said the man has been working for 50 years. And I'm like, yes, I know. But like, you going to leave us now? This is from the Hollywood Reporter reporting on today's show, Australia. His next project, I think this starts in February. He's doing Othello on Broadway. He's doing Othello again. He said he did it at 22 and now he's doing it again at 70. He's also doing a film where he plays Hannibal, the military strategist, not not Hannibal Lecter, not the cannibal. Is Hannibal the one that went through the Alps on the elephants and defeated Rome? He's got a thing for Rome right now. And then he says he's in talks with Steve McQueen for a project. He didn't give any more additional details about that. And then he said Ryan Coogler is writing a part for him for the next Black Panther, which I was like, the next Black Panther? We didn't even know there was a Black Panther 3 in the works, but apparently there is. Marvel has not said anything. You know, Marvel is like notoriously private about his projects, but Denzel has like spilled the tea that there's a Black Panther 3 in the works. He didn't say what kind of role he's doing in it, but there's a Black Panther 3 in the works. And, you know, because he's Denzel, they're writing a part specifically for him. I was like, it must be nice. It must be nice. He has earned that, over earned that. So good for him. I can't wait to see this movie. Cannot wait, cannot wait, cannot wait, cannot wait. Speaking of legends, Quincy Jones passed, I guess, last week, the week before. I don't even know if I mentioned it. I know I talked about it initially on the podcast, and I think I went back and edited it out only because James Earl Jones had passed a couple months ago. Maybe not even that long ago, but James Earl Jones had passed. I was like, oh my God, James Earl Jones. I'm thinking of him from Coming to America. And I'm like, oh my God, the king. We love the king. Before I could even get a post up like acknowledging James Earl Jones passing, I started seeing posts about his comments about Black women and basically how he, you know, hated us. And there were things that he had said as like a younger man, but over the course of his life, he never self-corrected. I'm not going to praise or mourn someone who didn't even like my ass. What the girl say? Taking off the cape, using it as a blanket. I was like, yeah, no. So I never mentioned James Earl Jones. So with Quincy Jones, you know, he lived a long life. He'd had many children with white women. I don't mind if men don't date or don't marry Black women. I mind when men throw Black women under the bus to justify their decisions to date whoever else. If you want to go do the snow bunny thing, go for it. I want you to go find joy wherever you find it. And if that's where you find it, so be it. But like, leave me and other Black women alone about it. I was like, oh, let me see how this shakes out. Let me see what quotes and such are circulating about him. So far, it's been over a week. I haven't seen anything crazy come up about Quincy Jones. It usually comes up pretty quickly. Like when Cissy Houston died, I was like, oh no, Whitney's mama. And then I saw so many people being like, not, oh no, Whitney's mama. Like she was a bigot. Whitney would still be here. And then that interview of her and Oprah started circulating where Oprah was like, you know, would you have cared? Would you have minded? Would it have bothered you if, you know, Whitney was a lesbian or Whitney was gay? And she said, absolutely. And Oprah was like, it would have bothered you? And she was like, uh-huh, yes, it would. Oprah tried to ask her that question like 4 different ways, trying to give her an out to clarify. And each time she was like, no, it would have been a problem for me. Yeah. Uh-huh. Problem. No, I wouldn't have condoned it. It would have been a problem. I would have had an issue with it. And I was like, okay, stand where you stand. But then, you know, you die. You can't expect people to be but oh so sad about another bigot leaving the earth. Live how you want to be remembered. And if you do a bunch of dumb shit, like at some point, apologize for it, like repent before you go. So at least people could throw that part out there. Like, well, he did say this, but you know, he was young. And then he came back later and said, I was young and saying dumb shit and it was stupid. And I'm sorry for the pain I caused or whatever. Try to be a better person. It actually does count in the way people remember you. Speaking of the way people are remembered, you know, all summer, I was at all these film festivals or I was in, you know, various cities where there were screenings and I kept missing that Luther documentary. They showed it in DC at the Blacksonian and I signed up for it. And then I ended up going somewhere else. I think I went out to LA for the BET Awards and I wasn't able to go. And then I missed it at ABFF. I didn't sign up in time. Or was there a conflict? I think maybe Issa Rae's boat party was the same night as the Luther documentary. So obviously I went on the boat. And then Martha's Vineyard, I think I had the same issue. Like the night of the Luther screening, there was some other party that I really wanted to go to. And I ended up doing that instead. And then at the last minute, I was like, you know what? No, I want to see the Luther screening. And then it was sold out because, you know, the Martha's Vineyard crowd is like prime Luther audience. I heard it was airing in theaters. I think it was only there for like a day or so. I saw people online raving about it, how amazing it was, how good it was. So I was like, I'm calling in favors at this point. Like, I have to see this documentary. Like, it's driving me up a wall. So one of my friends was able to get in contact with the publicist for the film. and she sent me a link to the documentary. My mom is the reason I'm a Luther fan. Like she loved Luther Vandross. I've said this before. Luther Vandross, Celine Dion, and Marvin Gaye. That's it. I was gonna say Patti LaBelle, but those three. If she got trapped on a desert island, if she only had those three, she could survive. She'd be fine. So they sent it to me. I think I was taping a podcast, and I told my mom, and I was like, "Oh, the Luther doctors came in," and I was like, "When I'm finished, we can watch it or whatever." And she said, "Well, I gotta wait." And I said, "Mom, you don't want to wait for me to watch the Luther documentary?" And she said, "Well, I gotta wait for you." She's like, "You working? I'm not working." Oh, okay. I know Luther's music. Watching the documentary, I realized how little I actually knew about Luther. Like I knew nothing about like his history and his start, him doing commercials and jingles, which was insane, like hearing Luther Vandross sing about like Budweiser beer or something. I knew he had done backup for Roberta Flack. I knew he had a relationship with Patty. They kind of threw her under the bus in the documentary. Remember Patty a couple years ago had gone on Watch What Happens Live and she was speaking too free about Luther's sexuality? And people got really upset with her and they were like, hey, like Luther wasn't out in his lifetime. And like now you're outing him in death. So even though Patty and Luther like publicly are very much affiliated with one another, she wasn't even included in the documentary. One of the friends said something shady about Luther having friends who didn't like protect him or honor him or something like that. And then the next clip is Patti LaBelle chatting with Andy on Watch What Happened. So she's not included in the documentary, but Mariah is there. There's tons of stuff with Dionne Warwick, but they don't actually sit down with her for an exclusive interview. Most of the documentary, and I thought this was a really smart choice, is with two of his friends or a couple of his backup singers. The core people telling his story are two of his friends who he'd known probably from junior high school or so. He had started a band or a group or whatever, and they were part of the group. They ended up in a different group later on in life, and then one of them was, I don't know if they want to say his music director, but they had collaborated with Luther throughout his career, so they knew him really well, and also they loved him, which I think is really important. So they told stories about him, and they talked about him in the way that you would want to be remembered. So they didn't try to turn him into a perfect person, but they talked about him, even when they spoke about like his flaws or things that he dealt with, but with love. And I really appreciated that because obviously this documentary is being made years after Luther has passed. And I think in the press materials, they said that many people had reached out to the family, to the state, to do projects about Luther, and they just didn't feel it was the right person. They didn't feel it was the right approach. They said yes to this project, and they allowed the music, most importantly, to be used for this project because they liked the approach of celebrating him as opposed to focusing on, I don't know, his sexuality. It comes up in the documentary, but it's not a prominent thing. But they show lots of footage of Luther and then, Luther videos or Luther album covers, Luther photos in particular. And it was like, okay, this was clearly an out man. He might not have been out to public, but he was clearly out in his personal life. There's really no hiding who he was. Even he might have thought he was hiding, and people might have been willfully in denial about who he was. But I was like, there's no question. Also, I think at that time, him being out as a Black male R&B singer, especially one who sung so prominently about loving women, like he wouldn't have had a career. It wouldn't have worked. It barely works now. It definitely wouldn't have worked back then. Gosh, it was such a great documentary. I didn't realize that Luther wrote so much of his work. I think of Luther and I think of him covering a lot of other people's songs, Dionne Warwick in particular. But he wrote several of his songs, even like his biggest hits. Dance with My Father was one of them. His first single, cannot remember the name of it right now, but he also wrote that. But he was a prolific writer, prolific arranger. He used to arrange songs for David Bowie. That was like one of his like really big starts in the industry. They talked a lot about, which, we make jokes. Cedric the Entertainer, of all people, he has a very famous joke about, Big Luther versus Little Luther. He prefers Big Luther. But actually hearing from Luther about like his struggles with his weight and then the way his weight was handled by the press. I mean, you think it's brutal the way we talk about people's weight now? Like, oh my God, the 80s, the 90s, even in the 2000s, like people were just brutal because he was a bigger guy and then he lost the weight and then he gained the weight back. I think he had a car accident, which I totally didn't remember. My mom was like, I remember. And I was like, how do I not remember any of this? My mom was like, yeah, you were like 10. I was like, oh, okay. He had such an interesting life. And he also did like a shit ton of interviews because even though like, he's deceased, because he'd done so many interviews, it felt like his voice was present and he told so much of his story, or the version of his story that he wanted to be remembered as. Really, really, really good documentary. I was like, if something ever happened to my black ass, I would want my actual friends to be the people that spoke in my documentary, like the people who I really like ran with, as opposed to like a bunch of celebrities. Jamie Foxx was all up and through the documentary. He's one of the producers on it. But I was like, do I really care what Jamie Foxx thinks about Luther? Because there's no connection between Jamie Foxx and Luther. Not that it was established in the documentary. It's not like they were friends. It's not like Jamie was his backup singer or had like some intimate connection. They worked on some really big project together. And I was just like, why are you here? Other than, you put up funds or got connections made in order to get this done, which is good. I appreciate. But I was like, sir, if you don't just collect your check and go, like, why are you here? I didn't. Mm. The best part of the documentary to me was all of like the rehearsal footage for Luther. I go down the YouTube rabbit hole sometimes and I just watch like tons of videos and performances from Luther. And some of those were included in the documentary, but it was also like a bunch of stuff that I'd never seen before, like rehearsals or Luther from the early years, like even Luther on Sesame Street, no less. But Luther singing the ABCs is still like, it's still Luther singing. If you're a big, big Luther fan, maybe you know a lot of his story. Like I feel like I learned about Luther watching the documentary. Now that I'm sitting here talking about it, and I'm like, wait, when did I get this documentary? It's only available to me for like 7 days. And I was like, wait, can I get another watch in before it expires? I hope so.
Welcome to Monet Talks with me, your girl Monet Exchange, a weekly podcast where the only thing hotter than the tea is our topics, darling. Every single Thursday, we'll be bringing you candid interviews, fun segments, and games featuring a dazzling array of guests, including fellow queens, other celebrities, pop culture icons, friends, and maybe even an ex-boyfriend or four.
You want to hear something horrible?
Tell me.
I was outed.
Outed?
Yeah.
Say their name.
I think I found sobriety through my fans.
That's beautiful, bitch.
I love those little whores.
I'm normally not this nasty.
I bring it out of everyone. That's the tea. To watch the podcast in studio, see exclusive content, and get a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes, head over to youtube.com/@MonetExchangeOfficial and tell all your friends you can listen to Monet Talks completely free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Period.
What else do I have on my list of things to talk about right now? I could really do all politics all the time if I really wanted to, but I don't want to. Oh, this is good news. Harlem season 3 is returning. It's not returning until January 23rd. I'm gonna call right over to the Amazon people as soon as I wrap this and be like, so hey, I need to review it. I need to see it. I need something on it. Please and thank you kindly. Harlem is coming back. That makes me super excited. I'm sorry, this is so dumb. I screenshotted this woman on Threads. Somebody asked, like, what was the worst date you've ever been on? And this woman was telling a story. Fab Glance. That's her name on Threads. She said she went on this date with a dude and he ordered a well-done steak. And she said when the steak got there, he picked it up and ate it like it was a brownie. He just picked up like the whole slab of meat and just started like eating it. Like just no fork, no knife, just started eating it. Oh, I screenshotted something about white women and their little blue bracelets, which, girl, bye. I appreciate that although 53% of white women who voted did vote for Trump, that also leaves 47% that didn't. And they don't want to be associated with the white women who are clearly okay with like bigotry and racism and sexism. Blue bracelets, it's performative. It does nothing. I appreciate that your heart is in the right place, but like I need you to do something more. I need you to do a better job of convincing your white friends and family members to like not vote for someone who's going to send America into the dark ages. Like that's what I needed you to do. You're trying to do like more on the back end. We're fucked at this point. Like, it's like your house catches on fire and then like, it's burned down to the ground. And then you show up the next morning. It's like the smoke is rising from the ashes and be like, I have a fire extinguisher. Bitch, you showing up a day late and the dollar short don't do shit for us. That's what it feels like. Oh, David Johns. It's one of my favorite podcasts, Teach the Babies. I talk about it all the time on here. He's on this week with one of my favorite Instagram follows, Dr. Raquel Martin. She is a therapist. She is very clear that she does therapy for Black folk. So Black women, I think primarily, but also Black men as well. So she's on with Dr. David Johns this week for the Teach the Babies podcast, and they're talking about coping while Black. So in the wake of this election where we're all just like WTF, how do we make sense of all of this? She's talking about possible coping skills, which very necessary. Like tired of talking about that shit. I need to go touch grass again. I need to go. I mean, even though I just moved from part of the city, like where the water is right there, I mean, it's 5 minutes away. Like I need to go back by the water a couple days a week and just be one with nature and go climb on rocks and sit in the sun and just process life because the dread, I think that's what it is. Like I'm out of the phase of like despair. I don't feel despair. I'm reclaiming a sense of joy, but I'm just sort of like, I'm dreading what is to come. I'm also annoyed by what Trump is doing right now, which is, it's a form of terrorism. It's, you don't get elected until January 20th. We've still got another 2 months before he takes power. But like every day, he's essentially threatening a new portion of the population of how he's going to potentially upend their lives. So like the deportation, which Black folks, we laugh about everything to keep from crying and killing, essentially. But it's like we keep making jokes about like, oh, he's going to deport all the Latinos, but he also going to like all the Haitian folks in Ohio that were really just minding their business. And then Trump decided to accuse them of the heinous act of eating pets, which, nigga, what? But, it caught on. But like, he's going to try to deport them too, just on the GP of it all. So like, so we keep making jokes about it being Latinos, but it's literally like potentially anyone who isn't generations deep American. I think Black Americans might be okay in this. I mean, we always get caught up in some bullshit somehow. But like Haitian folk, that's the issue. Half of Brooklyn, all the Caribbean folk, they could go too. The Miami folk, the Haitians in Miami, that's the issue too. Black folks will absolutely be affected by this. Yes, he's going after the brown. He's also going after the Black too. One of my friends hit me up, like she's a Black Brit. She's naturalized, but Trump has set up an office of denaturalization. Allegedly, it's for people who have committed crimes, but it could apply to anyone. Remember when Trump was in office, he tried to go after like the DACA kids, like the dreamers, the ones who were born here, who've been here forever and a day. Trump was trying to send them home, even though they're entirely legal. So it's like, yeah, you're going after people who are quote unquote illegally here, but what about the other people? Like he's going after them too. It's not going to stop at who's legal and who's illegal, and it's not going to stop at what's legal. Every day for the next 4 years is going to be like some crazy shit. I don't miss that. It's a form of terrorism. And the only thing that's working so far for me to combat it is to just go touch, literally, just go be in nature. I have to remind myself that there is a world, one bigger than America. And they're also just, despite him, despite the horror and terror that he's about to inflict upon everybody, it's not just the US, the world will be affected by America's policies. But like, there's still sun and there's still sky and there's still grass and there's still water and there's still, I don't know, there's life. And somehow we must find a way to thrive in it. That's the episode for this week. Still not back to 100%, obviously, but working my way up. I hope you are too. Pray for the safe return of my mother and the beautiful Black women who escorted her through the airport. Man, Black women, we show up. Thank God for Black women. I hope Kamala Harris is doing okay. She's been through a lot this last week. The last 120 days, round up. She gave her best. I don't think I said that publicly. I was going to make a post about it. And then I don't know. I just didn't feel like talking about the election. But like, she really showed up when people needed her to. Because, people started talking about like Biden can't do it. And it was like, well, somebody has to. And then like she really like showed up and she gave 100% for the duration of the campaign. And things didn't work in her favor, or, you know, she was robbed. I wouldn't put it above Trump from, you know, cheating his way through it. But also, I fully believe that America is as racist and as sexist as it appears at this time. But she gave 100% and she ran a really good campaign. And I hate that she lost. But I also just want to show respect for she did her best. And I just want to acknowledge that and show respect for that. And also, thank you for stepping up to the plate. All right, that's the episode. Take good care of yourselves. We'll talk again on Friday. Okay, bye.